Individuals versus variables. What's the difference and how does this relate to statistics? How I like to think of individuals, those are the actual things or the person or the animals or the objects, anything that's being studied. The variables are the characteristics of the individuals that are actually being measured. An easy way to elaborate on this and to explain it in greater detail is by going to my trusty old friend Google Chrome and going to one of my favorite websites, which is ESPN.com. And I'm going to look for just a roster of different athletes. Doesn't matter what the sport is. Looks like LeBron was hurt on Christmas Day. So you know what? Let's look for the roster of the Los Angeles Lakers to help us with this. So we're going to go over to NBA. We're going to go down to Los Angeles Lakers, and we're going to click on the roster. Okay. And this is a really cool example of, well, I should say a cool example if you're into basketball and sports, or if you're into money, about what an individual is and how we can look at an individual and use them to study variables. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of copy and paste this over into our notebook so we can kind of fool around with it a little bit and work with it. Copy and paste. All right, there we go. Now, I don't know what this all is, so I'm just going to take this out. And here we have a good example of, again, what an individual is versus our variables. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and just highlight. We'll say in individuals, we're going to highlight our individuals in yellow. Okay, and that would be everybody in this column right here. Okay, and we can kind of highlight the entire thing. All right, and if I keep scrolling down, again, all of our individuals or everybody on the team. Now, don't be confused when we think of the word individual. I think of human right away. You know, I think of a person, and we're not wrong in thinking that, but understand that you could have a group of individuals that are things, um, that are animals. Okay, you could have really a group of anything that could kind of take place. If we're looking at TCNJ, your course catalog. We'll just say courses. We don't often think of them as individuals, but technically, if you looked at a list of all the courses you were to take, statistics, anthropology, humanities, like anything, you know, you could look at that list and come up with different variables to study. Okay, so here's our individuals. We're going all the way from Lonzo Ball to Josh Hart, LeBron James. Okay, and it's great to start with a list of individuals. Now let's actually look at what the variables are. Okay, in this case, I'm counting. We have one variable. We have which is their number, their position is another variable, their age is another variable, their height, their weight, college, right? Their salary. These are all variables in this case. Okay, in this case, I'd say we have again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different variables that we're looking at. Okay. Now, I always like to say these variables can be measured as categorical or also qualitative. Categorical, another way to describe that is qualitative. Okay, think of anything that's described by a word. and not quantitative. Okay, so in this case, your categorical variables would be the position and their college. I would say those two are categorical. The other type of variable you can have is what's called a numerical or a quantitative variable. Okay, so over those variables, I'm just going to put a little n, so number is numerical, age is numerical, height, weight, obviously salary. Okay. Now within numerical variables, you can have what's called a continuous or a discrete variable. Okay, so you could have discrete or continuous. And the difference with those, think of continuous as there's infinitely many options that it could take on. Okay, so for example, if I look at the variable of salary, okay, I would say that is definitely a continuous variable because it could be measured infinitely many ways. Technically, you could have $0, you could have $7,461,960. You could have $3,500,000.25. There's infinitely many options that this can take on. Now, obviously, in currency, we round to the nearest cent, but that variable of money can take on an infinite amount, a continuous spectrum of numbers. Whereas discrete, on the other hand, there's only a set amount of numbers that you can choose from. A go-to variable for this one, I would say, is your jersey number. Okay, typically we have jersey numbers from 0 up to 99. Whereas in basketball, actually, if you watch the game now, it doesn't really follow this in the NBA as much because players get to pick their own numbers. But you'll notice that most of the numbers, if you watch high school or basketball, they never exceed 5. Okay, so you could have a player who's number 14, you get a player who's number 5, number 21, number 25, 55, 50. You rarely will see a number like number 19 or a number like number 17. Okay, and the reason for that is when the referee goes over to the scoring table and they flash up their hands to say whether or not a player had a personal foul or not, it's a lot easier to flash up a 1-5 or to flash up a 4 or to flash up a 42. A little more difficult if they said foul on number 79. They'd have to use 2 hands. Anyway, going off topic there a little bit with the NBA and basketball. But again, back to your original point of discrete versus continuous. Discrete is something that is numerical in nature. It's measured in terms of a number, but it does stop. Okay, whereas continuous, measured in a number again, but there's infinitely many different options. Okay.